On January 20th, 2025, Donald J. Trump was sworn in as the 47th president for his second term. Within just a day of being in office, President Trump signed numerous executive orders showing his new presence. Within just a few months, President Trump has created what many people claim as chaos and uncertainty across the nation, stemming from controversial actions such as his immigration reforms, tariffs, funding cuts, and many more. Around the Mountain View High School campus, students are discussing his actions, reaching both points of agreement and disagreement, with students on a range of the political spectrum. These students are just a few from the community who have shared their thoughts on the new president. One Mountain View High School student, Renuka Mungi, has voiced her opinions on President Trump so far.
My name is Renuka, and I'm generally a Democrat. I think that I'm very disappointed to see what our country has voted for. Thus far, I think that it has not been just like what we've seen so far in some of the policies that are being passed and the language that's being used and just a lot of the things that are being proposed. A lot of those policies, I don't think that they represent things that our country should be supporting.
One of the first things President Trump did was establish the Department of Government Efficiency, appointing Elon Musk as the head. The department has followed through on their mission to cut federal spending, cutting funding from universities such as Columbia and Johns Hopkins, as well as in different places throughout the government. This includes different federal positions such as the National Parks staff. Funding cuts have impacted universities as well as their seniors who are soon to graduate. It also leaves uncertainty for public schools and the funding that they will receive in the future.
My name is David Henry. I'm an independent, though I'm pretty left-leaning. Some of the other things, like cutting research funding, I don't like, especially since I'll be going into research myself. So cutting funding for the NIH was a major negative, especially since I'll be headed to Emory, where the NIH is very close to a center for the NIH. So that'll definitely impact me.
In addition to funding cuts, President Trump announced and placed tariffs on countries such as Canada, Mexico, and China, as well as numerous other countries. This has created uncertainty for the economy as tariffs are placed then removed the next day. It has also influenced many companies to pause operations in the meantime.
I don't really think that we should be punishing Canada and Mexico as much. I think that we should be trying to build up with Canada and Mexico, and I don't really see the point of increasing tariffs as much, especially with what we're learning in macroeconomics class.
Ben Lin is another Mountain View High School student.
My name is Benjamin Lin, and I would put myself as a moderately leaning right.
In regards to tariffs, this is what he thinks.
I like it. I think in the long term it's good, short term it's bad. And people need to understand like tariffs aren't gonna effectively work overnight and that it takes a longer process. And I think Trump is just definitely trying to leverage America's position, making them like the dominant powerhouse of the world and just cutting off reliance on China and trying to give more opportunities to other nations to conduct trades with. So these tariffs are definitely a political strategy for America to like become the dominating manufacturing nation once again. So, yeah.
In addition to funding cuts, the new administration has had a change in attitude towards immigration from the previous administration. This includes numerous ICE raids all over the country, igniting action all across the country to protect these individuals. These ICE raids have even reached Mountain View.
In terms of immigration, I think that it is definitely a very polarizing issue, and there is definitely no one right answer. However, I definitely think that there is a wrong answer, and a lot of what has been happening right now with ICE and with just all of these, just this very hostile environment where we are treating people as less than human, in my opinion, is very, very, very sad to see.
I mean, honestly, like, with all presidents and like all administrations, there's always the good and the bad. There's never like a president that's gonna do everything good, right? There's always gonna be backlash from anyone and everyone. I'm like very pro national security, and I think that like people who come legally into this country, the whole process, because my parents, they're all immigrants from Taiwan and China, and I recently had cousins that literally took years to apply for their visa and green People really don't like it when I say this, but I think it's for the better cause, it's for the better good of Americans, like patriotic Americans, you know, like the people that like really build the society and stuff. But I always get myself confused with this topic because I also understand what the opposing side would also say, like the humanitarian aspect, and it also makes me really upset about that. But like at the end of the day, like rules are there for like a reason, and like I think that what Trump's doing in his administration, it's just kind of restoring law and order into this country in which the country really lacked. And I just see that as like a good move forward and like establishing like a good precedent for the future administrations that take examples to, you know, really obey these laws that our founding fathers kind of set.
While Lin says the execution of policies isn't favorable, when asked if he could elect President Trump for a third term if possible, Ben said yes.
Well, he kind of sucked in the first term, I'll be honest. But yeah, why not? Like, I like to see another 4 years maybe. If these 4 years really end up much better than the last 4 years before the Biden administration. Yeah.
All his new policies have made individuals from all across the country come together and make their voices heard. From the raging grannies in the local Bay Area to movements all across the United States, people have come together. These people have come together to fight for what they believe is right and to push the administration to act in their best interest.
Although I know he does a very strong following, but I think he is losing some followers, and I think that perhaps a new person might be able to, a new fresh face might be good for the Republican Party.
Overall, the students are dissatisfied with his performance.
Like, I like the reason why they're doing it, but I don't like how like the actual process is going. I know that the Trump administration, they really want to cut down on like these wasteful spendings, and I get that because like taxpayers, like your parents' taxpaying money, or my parents' taxpaying money, literally everybody else's taxpaying money goes into funding these government programs. But the way they're doing it kind of is overreaching in that way of like government like power and like having like just too much power doing all of these things. And I think that's kind of like breaching the term of like democracy.
Thus far, I think that it has not been just like what we've seen so far in some of the policies that are being passed and the language that's being used and just a lot of the things that are being proposed. A lot of those policies, I don't think that they represent things that our country should be supporting. I think that just a lot of things surrounding diversity and just a lot of things surrounding students and schools and education and health. I think that it's just really representative that we may not have an administration that is looking out for our country's best interests.
The students call for unity and peace.
Something that I think would be important is for parties to become less polarized. I think that a lot of people just see the other party and just automatically assume that they're a terrible person, and like you kind of dehumanize the other side, and I think both sides do that. And I think that it's important for people to find common ground and realize that there's probably reasons why people vote the way they do. I don't think there's any people that truly just vote because they want to see the world burn and just have like actual malevolent intention. I think most people vote because they do want to see good and because they believe that something will be better. I think it's important to recognize our shared humanity and that no matter who you vote for, you're still human.
Peace over violence, and if we're gonna continue to argue and like spread violence against each other, then nothing's really gonna be solved. So what I want to see in this continued administration is more bipartisan support, more cooperation, and not just hate against from one side and hate from the other side. I want to see, just America getting healthier and better and together.
Everything President Trump has done, from renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America and the 130 executive orders he has already signed within his first few months, the next 3.5 years and the future is uncertain.
Just based off what we've seen so far, I don't necessarily see anything going in a very positive direction. I'm very scared for how the next 4 years will go. I think that in terms of a positive direction, I think that one of the saddest things to me is like this is the person that our country voted for. Like, these ideals are representative of so many Americans in our country, which is very, very sad to me as a woman and as a person of color and someone who is part of certain communities. I just think that it's very sad to see. And I think it's going to take a long time for us to kind of reverse a lot of these policies, not only like physical policies, but also just kind of this mindset and these ideologies that so many Americans have. Yeah, I think that a lot of change needs to happen, but I also think that until America as a country starts to shift its ideology, there's not a tremendous amount that can be done.